Good. We are live. All right. Hello, class. I am Arthur Ackerman.
I'm Drew Burnstine, and we're going to be talking about the intricacies of sports contracts and negotiating. We're going to talk a little bit about Tom Brady and his final contract. We're going to talk about loyalty versus business, like Isaiah Thomas and stuff. And we're going to talk about Antonio Brown and his shenanigans and what
All
that
right.
led to.
Let's get started. So, let's talk about Tom Brady first. So,
Cool.
for people that don't know, Tom Brady, face of the franchise of the New England Patriots for close to 2 decades, won them 6 Super Bowls. Arguably the GOAT, but that's neither here nor there. That's up for you to decide. So for 2 decades, he took team-friendly deals in an era where quarterbacks were asking for, the max every year, new quarterbacks wanting the max, becoming the highest paid player in the league history. Tom Brady was taking team-friendly deals to try to build around him, make the team better, more
Yeah, he went
desirable place for as
above all.
desirable as New England can be, you know?
Yeah. So, um, and then it kind of ended sourly. Um, but I think that his desire to win is kind of what ended up pushing him away. Um, and there was also some tension. Arthur, you have the article about
I
that.
do. I do. So there was some tension between the owner, Robert Kraft, and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. According to Tom Brady's newsletter, 199, he opened up about this after his departure from New England. He said, the reality was, after 20 years together, a natural tension had developed between where Coach Belichick and I were headed in our careers and where the Patriots were moving as a franchise. It was the kind of tension that could only be resolved by some kind of split or one of us reassessing our priorities. So,
So, I guess, yeah, in this case, the priorities came down to did the Patriots want to pay him more money than he was worth just to keep him around, or did they all want to just move on? And I think Tom Brady, his highest priority, top priority has always been winning. And I'm guessing he felt that there was a better chance for him to win in Tampa Bay, which he did. They probably cheated, but they won at the end of the day. So, um, yeah, so I think that is kind of where business outweighed loyalty in this specific situation and in most situations. I mean, it's a
yeah,
business at the end of
exactly.
the day. You're dealing with millions and billions of dollars, and as much a lot of the owners they do have, they take a lot of pride in their team and they want their team to win. But at the end of the day, it's a very large investment, and I think the money comes first for a lot of owners.
Completely. Okay, so now let's move on to Isaiah Thomas and Boston Celtics issue. So Isaiah Thomas was a vetted point guard, undersized, had been around the league to a few teams and ended up in Boston, where in 2017, um, he carried the Boston Celtics to a playoff run, an Eastern Conference Finals push, days after his sister died in a car accident. For those of you that don't know, I believe he dropped like 40 or 50 points the day of. So it's a pretty powerful season for him where he battled through a super severe hip injury. Um, he famously said at the end of the season, be ready to back up the Brinks trucks, right? So later in the offseason, the Boston Celtics would go on and trade Isaiah Thomas to the Cavaliers for Kyrie Irving, a superstar point guard. So a lot of people thought that was a very cold-hearted and ruthless decision to make, especially after everything Isaiah Thomas had sacrificed and been through, and where he brought them that previous season to just move on from him for someone who played with LeBron and wasn't really that proven as an individual player at the time, like Kyrie Irving.
Yeah,
Um,
Kyrie is really good at basketball.
Great dribbler for sure. We see what he's doing now. He's still a great player. He's still obviously, lasted playing as long as he has. Whereas Isaiah Thomas, after that season kind of floundered out, the hip injury was obviously more severe than it had been let on at the time. And he kind of just disappeared into like China and Europe leagues. But um, a report from Sports Illustrated, Rohan Nadkarni, at the time of the trade, the hip injury wasn't the key to the Cavs Celtics trade, specifying that the reason in the trade was to give Cleveland more pieces to build around a younger roster and to bring in people for trade like trade pieces, I guess. And Celtics were obviously incentivized to bring in someone like Kyrie, a superstar scorer, and younger at the time. So
Yeah.
they say it had nothing to do with the hip injury, but I find it hard to believe when, physicians and doctors weren't clearing him to play. So it's a tough
Well,
situation, but
I love the IT. I think almost every sports fan loves like a good underdog story. And he's like a tiny little man. I mean, it's the NBA, and everybody's
5'9".
yeah, he's 5'9", and he was killing people out there. So I loved watching him play. He was very exciting, and he was very like he was a great team guy. I even remember him saying something like he seemed like a great guy in general. He's like if what I'm remembered for most of my life is being an NBA player, then I failed in life. So obviously he just seemed like a good guy to have in the locker room and around your franchise. So
Also,
I
just like the definition of an underdog, to be like that
yeah,
undersized in the NBA, you got to have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. I'm sure he did. He
exactly.
wasn't,
So, like
super touted. If I remember, he wasn't like a first round draft pick.
I
Uh,
think he was undrafted.
Undrafted. There you go.
Don't quote me, but I think he was.
And then to have the season he did in Boston carry them, you think that would elevate his stock, and instead they traded him, got rid of him, and never really did anything after that, unfortunately. But
Mhm. So I guess basically from a business standpoint, the Celtics saw an opportunity to upgrade talent and upgrade their team, and they took the emotion out of it, which this is where it comes to loyalty versus business. Business won again, but the trade did change. A lot of fans took it the wrong way. Obviously, there's going to be people who have like opinions all over the place, but I thought it felt a little ruthless, and it didn't work out for them with Kyrie Irving. It ended sourly with him as well. So I think, but at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at is business won again as opposed to loyalty and emotion.
okay, do you want to carry us into the Antonio Brown and the Raiders and Patriots dilemma, and moving on
Yeah.
from the Steelers and how his like kind of career and personality changed a little bit once he moved on?
So, um, uh, no, I saw something funny on my computer. So basically, Antonio Brown was just like he was the guy, arguably the best wide receiver of the 2010s. Um, Constantly led the league in statistics. He was fun to watch, punt returner. He was kicking people. I mean, he's an entertainer first and foremost. What the hell? Um,
Did I
so
throw off your train of thought?
you did screw up my train
My bad,
of
brother.
thought. So basically, he's like Steelers legend, played on them his whole career. He was also an underdog to begin with, kind of undersized, was a late round draft pick, came from a small college. But they towards the end of his career, they had this other wide receiver named Juju Smith-Schuster, and this was kind of the
Forgot
straw
about
that
that.
Campbell's back was at the end of his last year with the Steelers. The Steelers, as a team, gave Juju Smith-Schuster the team MVP award, and he like lost it. Just went on a bit of a tirade, and that was that. The relationship was soured. So he ended up getting he signed a deal with the Raiders in 2019, but big money, big money. He's the best wide receiver in the league, and he ended up not even playing a game for him. So
Like
basically,
missing practices and stuff, like conduct super detrimental to the team, unlike we've seen from a superstar in like recent years.
so yeah, that was what they quoted him as, and that's kind of what we wanted to get at was like, is it ethical to because like these players when they sign these contracts, they have what's called guarantees in them, which is a certain amount of money that they're going to make regardless if they get hurt, da da da. Other than like a few little examples. So basically, they were able to chop his guarantees and get him released from the team before those kicked in based on conduct detrimental to the team. So I found an article on ESPN. It was by Dan Graziano, and he actually tried to come and like recoup $40 million from the Raiders. He got fined over $215,000 by the Raiders, and he tried to come back and get that back. So he filed grievances with the NFL, didn't end up getting anything because I think people thought he was a bit of a clown and a sideshow. So I don't know how I feel about that. Like, at the end of the day, like he was technically guaranteed that money, but he violated his oath with the team. So I don't know. What do you think about it, Arthur?
Well, I think he really ended up showing his true colors after his career. I think teams were completely entitled to move on the way they did. And at the end of the day, the guarantees are in the contract of when they kick in. And if you feel the need to act like a complete, jackass and, not give the team the respect they're due or be involved in team activities and display conduct detrimental to the team before your guarantees kick in, you cannot be surprised when the team moves on from you and completely gets rid of you. And, it is what it is, but you have to be a professional.
Yeah.
So, we're at the time limit, but do you want to bang out these questions real quick?
Yeah. So we just want to leave y'all with a few questions, some lingering questions, if y'all want to ponder on this a bit. So one is loyalty outdated in modern sports, or should it even matter? Two, should teams be allowed to void contracts over personal conduct that happens off the field or the court? And three, what role does public opinion play in contract decisions? And do fans expect too much from the players or the owners? Just something to think about. It's kind of what we were getting at. So yeah, I think we're good.
All right.
All
See ya.
right, take care, y'all. Have a nice summer. Thanks for listening.